You know, I wanted to say something about my father. You know, he was in the bishopric, and so he'd always have us do things. We'd go around and we'd take little baskets to the widows or something at Thanksgiving or Christmas time. And he always said, the more you had to give, because it was your responsibility and it was joyful to give, and they needed it. My father would always take me with him, and my mother would have helped me make the cookies and things, so that I always felt I was a part of it.
A couple of months ago, when Mother was chosen for this award, she called me up excitedly and said that she had been asked to come down and be interviewed for this award. And I said, well, Mom, you deserve it. You certainly deserve it. All those years you gave to the community and all the things that you did for the people in this area, you certainly deserve it. And I remember as a little girl, her taking me to the neighborhood house with her and sitting there on the side of the piano bench as she played the piano for the children every day as they danced, and all the many things that she taught them there. It was such fun going along with her to some of her community service.
Of course, we just played right along with the kids.
And yes,
there.
we would play with the children
and
there.
She was so excited when they finally raised the money to build the neighborhood house. That was kind of a fulfillment of all their dreams, because now they had an official building to go to for all these children that had been dropped off while their parents worked. And we just kind of grew up with part of that.
The thing of it is, though, with her is that she's always so surprised by any kind of a recognition, because she's always had such a wonderful time doing it. She's never considered that she was doing anything. So even though she was always involved with everything, be it the PTA or the neighborhood house or the symphony or the university, it didn't matter to her. She just loved people, and she loved being involved with them and helping them.
I think Blanche is deserving of this People of Vision Award tonight because she is an unusually generous spirit. Not only in the work that she does in the community is she concerned about making things work. Her work with the symphony and the Ballet West, she brings people together, but also with her friends. The support that she gives her friends has always been remarkable. I remember hearing often that she would go up in the early morning and swim with Loli Eccles, another woman of vision, and they would have time together. It was very important to Loli because she was losing her eyesight. Blanche was always there, as she has been for many people.
Well, I have known Blanche for several years. I was acquainted with her and knew who she was long before she ever knew who I was, because she's so well known by everyone in this community. And everyone loves her, and her friendliness and spontaneity, I think, are very attractive. She has warmth, friendliness. She's very caring. She moves right to the issue. She's a marvelous fundraiser. As I say, she attracts people for many causes. She's a grand dame of the arts, and has been a favorite with the symphony people for years and years.
Honored as a person of vision. She is constantly active, it seems to me, and with regard to all manner of community enterprise to help. I'm just extremely pleased to be here to celebrate Blanche. Blanche is one of my favorite people in the entire world. I got to know her some years ago when I did a study. I'm an art historian by trade, and I did a study of her father, Joseph Alma Freestone Everett, Joe Everett, who was one of the finest watercolorists that Utah ever produced. And it seems to me that Blanche's interest with regard to this specific organization honoring her has to do with the fact that she began her life looking at beautiful painting and watched a father who painted incessantly throughout his life and is a devotee of beauty. And I'm sure that this is one of the driving factors in her interest in a prevention of blindness. She is a member of our Fine Arts Advisory Board, and one of the main reasons why that is the case is that she is so beautiful. It's her eyes.
My first experience with Blanche Freed was actually through the eyes of my mother. She talked about this beautiful Blanche Freed, that she was really one of the beauties of Salt Lake. And Mother had known her through the Utah Symphony. She was really one of the first real workers in the symphony. And then I actually met her when I returned to Salt Lake as a young married woman. And she was the guild president, and I had a delightful year working with her there. Well, I remember going with her to the wonderful dinner for Abravanel when he turned 90. And she was so much a part of building the symphony with Maurice Abravanel right from the beginning, and her dearest friend, Becky Almond. Those two were just inseparable. And Becky was the first guild president. And so I know how deeply she felt when they had the dinner honoring Abravanel. That was a wonderful time to be with her.
I grew up in a very religious home. My mother was a beautiful musician, pianist. She taught me my first piano lessons, and she taught me how to sing harmony. Made me furious because I couldn't sing both parts at the same time. I'd jump back and forth, and I wasn't able to do that. And my father was an artist, and so we just had religion, and art, and music. That's how I was reared.
And maybe the best thing is that she envisions everybody's success, and she envisions the world the way she wants it to be.
Certainly her daughters, she thought that we could do anything.
Yes, that was hard. Because
somehow we believed her.
Oh, she told us that every single day. She told us how wonderful we were. In fact, her whole thing was to build us up. And it didn't matter how terrible we were. Nevertheless, she made us feel that we could do absolutely anything.
Whatever our talent, how minimal.
That's right. Oh, yes. Our talent was so minimal that this was the one thing that was hard. Mother had all this ability, and she gave us the love for music, but unfortunately, she never gave us the talent for it. So instead, we loved it, and she'd say, "You can do it." Well, a little while ago, I was asked or told I had to sing for this one little party. And I tried to get out of it every way I could, and I thought, oh, I can't do this. And then they said, you simply have to do it. And I thought, well, maybe if I get Mother to play the piano for me, I can get through this song. So sure enough, she and I practiced and went through the whole thing. And finally, just before I went on, she said, well, Jo, don't worry. Sing any notes you want, and I'll find you.
Just because I took a look at some other girl, that's no, you should put poor me on the shelf. Angry, please don't be angry, 'cause I was only teasing you.
She's a remarkable woman. I think her brain cells are just constantly working. And I remember a meeting that we had with the board of directors with the Utah Symphony. It was a sensitive issue that was being discussed, and it went on for some time. And finally, Blanche raised her hand and just asked a question that took it right to the bottom line. And everyone smiled, and a few even laughed, and it was because it was something we were all thinking, but didn't have the courage to ask like she had.
I never fail to smile when, and we all are the same way, when she enters our circle of friends and associates and people working to beautify or for the betterment of this community. I know that her father, when I was doing that research that I referred to, opted in the middle of his career to be an independent painter and teacher of art, as opposed to going with the railroad off to a new headquarters elsewhere, because they were dedicated to Salt Lake City, and it's always been that way. She loves this town. The town knows she loves them, and all of us just simply delight in her presence.
I guess one of the reasons she really deserves this People of Vision Award is because more than anything, she seems to connect with people all through her life. And we keep getting letters, or she does, from different people that she has known 50 years ago or 40 years ago or 60 years ago, that of how she influenced their lives, and they have never forgotten her. We had an interesting little letter come from a woman who was involved with her at the neighborhood house that Jane has, that would be nice to have you read.
It says, "Dear Mrs. Freed, I'm one of the young people who benefited from your many years of service at the neighborhood house many, many years ago. You played the piano as Enid Cosgriff taught us toe and ballet. I will never forget either one of you. Thank you for your contribution to many underprivileged children. Sincerely, Dorothy Jones Smith." I thought that was so nice.
Yeah, and this is so typical. It wasn't just this one letter, but as I say, it's people that she worked with so many years ago who will never forget her. And she had one couple that lived with her during the war, a Japanese couple. And again, they sent, just a while ago, I think it was this last Christmas, sent her a picture of their whole family. The husband had since become a doctor, and they had been very, very successful. And they went on to say how they never could have made it had she not been willing to have them live with her, and how kind that she had been, and how she so had helped them and given them such a vision of people who really care and love other people. The People of Vision Award is really meaningful, and I think she's excited about that. But I think her real reward is the fact that she has so enjoyed her life and being with so many other people.
And we feel she deserves it. She may put it down and think that she's not the worthy one, but we know she really deserves it.
I can remember having fun with Blanche. There is no one that has a greater sense of humor than Blanche. And I remember Chase and I were in a formal receiving line on one occasion, many occasions, of course, and suddenly I felt somebody coming up behind me and putting her arms around me. And I was surprised. I turned around and it was Blanche. And she just said, "I just had to give you a quick hug. I couldn't get through this whole line, but I just had to give you a quick hug." So if anybody ever get you from behind, it's probably Blanche.
A lot of my experiences, delightful experiences with Blanche, have been a result of going to the symphony with her. Why would I be going to the symphony with her? Because David Freed does not go to the symphony, and she's finally accepted it, but he has also accepted the fact that she loves it, and they just count on that. And so I've had the opportunity of going with her.
You asked me how I met David. Well, I really met him on the street corner. One of his friends had called up and said, "I think that Blanche Freed or Blanche Everett is waiting for a streetcar, and why don't you go down and ask her if she wants a ride home?" Which he did, and my sister was with me, and I automatically, as I have told you before, I just put my sister in with him, and then I got in. Well, that intrigued him so, to think that I didn't want to sit by him or something. He couldn't believe it, and it really seemed to capture his imagination. And so he called me up for a date. And knowing the family as I did, because my youngest sister, Ruth, and his brother, Bob, put on little shows in the basement of Freed's, and I was always at the shows when my sister was performing. So I knew his mother very well, and so I said yes, and guess where he took me? He took me to a wrestling match. Well, if there's anything I literally hate, it's wrestling. How was I going to handle that? I put my hand up like this, and I talked to him all the time, and I didn't see one bit of it. And I just yak, yes, that's right. And that's how I did it. Then, later on, we went to see Aida on our honeymoon. And in those days, there was a magazine called The Liberty Magazine, which he purchased, and he's always reading magazines. I didn't think anything of it. And we were up high, and he got out his magazine to read while I was listening to Aida. The people around us went, shh, 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 shh. And he thought, well, what was the matter with this? So
I have to admit, I brought my wife into a different kind of a life, but she was always a good sport. I'll give you an example. We had this cabin up in the mountains, and sometimes we'd get violent rainstorms. Well, it so happened we had one at night when we were both asleep, and the cabin leaked, and it leaked in several places. And so I quietly got out of bed and went in the kitchen and got several pans and put over her so that it would catch the rain. And she woke up to find these pans all over her. She told me she had been dreaming of the ocean.
And I said, well, you were very lucky that I didn't happen to turn over because they would have gone, all that water would have gone on top of you, and then I would have felt